Good morning. Well, now, today I want to talk about something very near and dear to my heart. And this is how I essentially think that religion, mysticism, spirituality are basically archaic interpretations of the world, the universe. They're close, but not quite right. And I think science, at least theoretically, has explained a lot of these ideas: reincarnation, eternal life, um, a force greater than us, so on and so forth. You know, unseen evil, etc., etc. I might as well start by explaining the first few that I listed there. So you talked about eternal life. It's true. We are essentially eternal beings because we're comprised of, hydrogen atoms from the same dead stars, which also, interconnectedness. Everyone's interconnected only on a chemical level, not necessarily a spiritual level. Could be, I don't know. Um, but the star matter is going to be recycled until the end of time. Perhaps past that, after the big crunch happens and the universe stops inflating, goes another big bang, so into the next phase of the universe. We'll be there. We may not be conscious of it, but the atoms that are sparking our brain and creating what we perceive as a consciousness will be there. Because, as Einstein says, matter can't be created and it can't be destroyed. Um, and as for stuff like, demons and unseen evil, well, look at bacteria. It's all around us. There's good bacteria, there's bad bacteria. And we have to be, cautious of things we can't see, because now we know there truly are things that we can't see, at least with the naked eye. We can objectively study these things with equipment like microscopes, but these are not tools that, say, Bronze Age Christian would have had at their disposal. And so I think it's high time for religion, spirituality to just hang up his hat. Just to go, you know what? Maybe at one point in time, we provided, a fundamental moral basis for everyone. We gave them a compass, watched them go. Um, but, on that same side of the coin, that moral compass, that sense of certainty in what we're doing, and that we'll be assured in the afterlife, is a perfect example of, an excuse religion provides, spirituality provides, for being able to do whatever you want, as long as you are able to justify it with your own set of metaphysical beliefs at the end of the day. Um, and another thing, where are all the miracles these days? The ones we truly can't explain. Well, they're certainly not coming from the church. The Catholic Church, their last great miracle was the miracle of Fatima, which essentially some kids who are known for making up highfalutin tales that always ended up just being full of hot air, told people they saw an angel, and this angel said, gather around, look at the sky, and God will send you a message. And or something along those lines. But yeah, so everyone gets together and they stare at the sun and they get sunspots in their eyes and they perceive that as the sun racing around the sky. When it's like the most kind of lemon-ish thing ever. There are multiple people there who said they saw nothing. There were journalists who said they saw nothing. But the church was so desperate to have a miracle just in their court for once that they got behind it and they ate it up. And like I think it was only something like 60% of the crowd that who were already predisposed to wanting to see something, wanting to see a miracle in their lifetime. Who doesn't want to see a miracle in their lifetime, especially if you're religious? Like they were the only ones who reported the sun dancing around. And I mean, I was a kid. I stared at the sun a couple of times, and I got the sunspots. I still get sunspots every now and then if I'm biking and I like rapidly come out of a sort of covered area and just blast me. Yes, you see that, and it's really just light being burned onto your retina and kind of hanging around for a little while, like illumination being exposed to silver ions in an old-fashioned camera. Same sort of trick. But all the miracles now that, and some of them, I mean, you could argue are acts of faith on behalf of science, but they are acting at least in the realm of objectivity. Like, you can look at black holes, for example. The fact that there's this insanely dense matter that not even light can escape from, and that its event horizon is full of stars essentially singing a swan song, and that they are being pulled apart so vastly while still together that they are experiencing every side of that black hole and potentially new dimensions even. We don't know because we haven't been to one yet. I mean, it'd be a one-way trip, obviously. But, and again, look at bacteria. There's the guy who discovered germ theory was put in a mental institution. A Hungarian physician, I believe, who found out that sterilizing your equipment was a great way of reducing infection. And the list goes on and on. I already listed some examples about just matter at the beginning, but Higgs boson, the God particle, the fact that we are able to, by slamming atoms together in a particle accelerator, discover what is truly at the root of them all is something truly like just breathtaking to behold. Quantum entanglement, something that is not proven. And it's also something that I think spirituality has kind of tried to co-opt and bastardize, because you hear about it all the time. You hear the word quantum anyways. And just about every ad you may get for a guy on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? If you watch weird videos like me, you probably do anyways. But yeah, this idea that particles somehow are ending up wrapped together and they're mirroring each other's activities, and no matter how far apart they get, they are transferring the same amount of the same information to one another. These are marvelous things. And for me, the greatest, I think, act of faith for science, and I'm not a scientist, so I could very well be wrong here, but from my research, dark matter. No matter how hard we try as we might, we cannot prove the existence of dark matter, but there is enough evidence for us to logically deduce that it's there, because the universe just does not seem to have enough matter to sustain itself. I think they said dark matter consists of like 60% of the universe or something. Otherwise, we would collapse in on itself, or we'd collapse in on ourselves. There are many, many miraculous things being discovered every single day by science. But in science, you don't have to deal with essentially, faith being the test. You're dealing with objective research, and you're dealing with peer-reviewed papers. You're dealing with a panel of people who want you to be wrong, which is, not always good because that can spark unhealthy competition, but it is good in a sense that people want to, from all angles, go, okay, I really, really wish this was wrong, but everything points in the direction of it being right. And that seems to be the inverse of the religious method, which is have faith that it is true. And as far as, like other similar areas of research, you look at psychology, for example, this idea that our mind is not necessarily our own, but it's a product of conditioning from here, there, and everywhere. Particularly when we're young and our minds are malleable, because the brain stops developing when we're at 24 to 26, at least. That was the consensus until the idea of neurogenesis came around, and even that is still kind of on the fence, but it has been shown in psychedelic studies with lab rats the fact that we can produce new neurons and stem cells past the phases of being a fetus, past the phase of our brain ceasing its development, and continue to grow and heal our neurological frameworks. It's amazing stuff, truly amazing stuff. And, I know I just blended like neuroscience and psychology there, but I think it's because, they both are being generated by the brain, and that's another amazing thing to just realize. When you want something to look at in awe and wonder, look at the human brain. Look at how complex it is, and how that complexity is what dictates so much of who we are. So, I often find myself on this end of having to defend how, oh yes, just because I'm not religious or spiritual, I still have capacity for wonder when it comes to the universe. Because I'm still going to live forever, or at least my particles are. Maybe not me, but my particles are. I've been around since the beginning of time, at least my particles have. I'm interconnected to everyone because, yes, we're made of that same hydrogen matter. I've fallen prey to invisible foes, though that darn bacteria, many a time. It's amazing that something so microscopically small can topple a giant. And I could go on, and I feel it's like kind of redundant that I have to explain this, because I think to have this perspective of, oh, you don't truly appreciate the universe unless you embrace the beliefs that I have about what makes it so spectacular. I think, for one, that's kind of an elitist way of thinking. And for two, I think it's like fatally stubborn. You're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're also putting yourself in this sort of protected camp of no one's going to get on my level unless they believe what I believe. And so I have this spiel in my head pretty much saved for people I have to explain that to on a regular basis, as I know a lot of people who are very spiritual or religious, which is fine. That's fine. But I still do not agree with them, and so I don't agree with them. I will tell them, and I will squabble oftentimes to my detriment. But I'm not going to be a doormat for people who say they have a capacity for greater abilities when it comes to just simply marveling at and appreciating what's around us and what's in front of us and what science is saying, aha, but look at this phenomenon, ball lightning, which I've seen, by the way. We can't reproduce it in labs. We haven't been able to capture it. I think they have been able to capture a photo of it recently. But look at this plasma. It's being generated in the atmosphere when there's high amounts of static in the air. And, like St. Elmo's fire kind of thing, very similar. And you also look at how those two things have been interpreted over time, and they're always considered like a bad omen or some sort of fey folk that were intruding on the lives of those who experienced it, when really it's just a natural phenomenon. And I think that's amazing. You could call science my religion, if you will. I don't think it's quite the same thing, but I do think science is full of reasons to do good, to treat the planet well, to treat each other well, to take care of ourselves, take care of the world, the universe, and to make the most out of life. And I'll leave this with one of my favorite quotes from Carl Sagan, which is that, and I may paraphrase this a bit, so my apologies in advance, but we are a way for the universe to understand itself. Like, isn't that amazing? Isn't that enough to give you drive at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day? The fact that the universe has created through its atoms organic beings capable of critical thought, capable of creating such profound instruments that can actually study what's around us, not just dowsing rods or whatever. It's just about anything, like a particle accelerator, for example. That's in itself is something quite tremendous. And through this critical thought, through those instruments, we are able to understand what created us. Think on that. Anyways, cheerio.